rockets went over from Lebanon into Israel. As far as we know, there are, I believe, one person was wounded in the attack, but there are no deaths as far as we know so far. But the way media looks at this attack was that this was a preemptive attack from Israel. Basically, what has happened is Israel knew about this Hezbollah attack and has preempted some of their sites to basically make the attack weaker. They did succeed to some extent. As I said, only one person wounded and no deaths as far as we know. But this whole situation is a bit weird, and we talk about it. We'll talk about the way media looks at this, the way the government of Israel is responding, particularly Netanyahu, and everything around it. So, James, when you heard about this story, maybe I can start first because usually Razis sends the topic ideas at like 3 a.m. As well as today. So when I woke up, I just saw. I always wake up when he sends me stuff. I always wake up like really worried, like Hezbollah attack on Israel. And this is the second time when it really wasn't that. I don't want to say big of a deal, but basically, nothing really bad happened on Israeli side. But James, when have you heard about the attack, and what were your first thoughts? Um,
Well, what I heard about was an Israeli attack in the media. The way it's being presented in the media, just on the headlines, Israel launches preemptive attack. Now, the very concept preemptive attack and this concept is bizarre. It wouldn't have been a preemptive attack if this happened months and months, 7, 8 months ago. Couldn't possibly be regarded as a quote preemptive attack. When someone's been shooting at you, let's say you're two sides of a street, and on the other side of the street behind the thing, someone's been shooting at you with their rifle, and for a time they pause and they still say, "We're going to shoot you, we're going to shoot you, we're going to shoot you," and then they lift their rifle and aim at you again, and you shoot at them. That's hardly a preemptive attack. It's not that you. It would be impossible for me to define anything at this moment as a preemptive attack on either side. They're at war, and the parties refuse to recognize they're at war. Israel and Hezbollah recognize to that extent that they're at war with each other. But wait a minute, both sides are trying to contain their reaction so as not to generate greater escalation. So what's really happening is Israel is at war with Lebanon. Israel is at war with Iran. As far as I'm concerned, America is at war with Israel, not with Israel, Iran. And it's a war that everyone doesn't want to acknowledge. And since there's been an ongoing war for years between America and Iran, between Israel, Iran, and Israel and Lebanon, that no one wants to escalate and create some greater conflict on. So we're still talking about these things in terms of preemptive strikes, which is utterly bizarre. It's the latest exchange. It's the latest exchange in an ongoing war, is the way you have to look at it. Now, they can exchange hundreds of rockets, hundreds of missiles, and if no one gets hurt, well, you see, that's we both sides are happy because that doesn't mean further escalation because we don't want a wider regional war to break out. Well, that is absolutely insane. It's pretending that there is no war just because one person gets injured or killed, or no one gets injured or killed. We're talking about, Hezbollah, the way they characterize it, right? It was designed not to escalate into a higher. Well, fire rockets, you don't know if it's going to kill people, destroy buildings. That's an after the fact. Hey, since it didn't kill anyone, don't go to the next, don't raise it up a notch level in this war, so long as we don't kill a lot of people. But when you throw rockets at each other, people could die. And after the fact, when no one happens to have died, and usually Israel does stop most of it. That's true, but people do die. So when both sides are framing it in terms of, well, this is limited, or this is a preemptive attack on one side or the other. We don't want further escalation. It's total evasion. This is just the latest attack, exchange of missiles in an ongoing war. an ongoing war that involves Lebanon itself. I don't think there's any other way of looking at it. So the way the media is characterizing it is somewhat bizarre to my way of thinking. Preemptive strike? No, it's the latest exchange in an ongoing war.
Yeah, so Hezbollah claims this is basically a response for Israel's assassination of Fuad Shakur. They've said a bit of a contradictory things, at least I'd say. So first they said this is just the first phase, basically saying another attack is coming. And if in the next piece of news, I'll read again that Israel is preempting strike. Israel is about, how much is it now? About 10 months late with preemptive strike to Hezbollah. The only time when there was well, there were a few, but after October 7th, the only day for preemptive strike was on October 7th, because we knew Hezbollah would attack. But of course, even before October 7th, we knew Hezbollah, the only reason why Hezbollah exists is to fight against Israel. So also Netanyahu has said this is not the end, but we don't know about any what's gonna happen from now. So this whole situation is just super weird to me, the way media is covering this, the way even Israel is responding. Well, not responding, but responding with words. An interesting question in the chat says, why do you conflate Hezbollah with Lebanon? And so when you look at the title, we didn't call it Hezbollah attacks Israel. We called it Lebanon attacks Israel, because Lebanon is Hezbollah and Hezbollah is Lebanon. Lebanon as a country hides, well, for one, Hezbollah is in the government of Lebanon. Hezbollah is controlling large parts of Lebanon, especially in the south. They have a lot of support from the people, and Lebanon is not doing anything about Hezbollah. If Lebanon were to fight against Hezbollah, if Lebanon, and someone says they're a small part of the Lebanese government, if you have a terrorist organization in the government, I don't care how big or small it is, you are including a terrorist organization. Like when we talk about this, just harboring terrorists, when Turkey or Iran or Qatar, when they just harbor terrorists, that's a declaration war on Israel. That's saying, and especially when I think specifically with Turkey, they said to Israel, if you try to assassinate any of Hamas leaders that are, or any people from Hamas in our land, we will fight you. We will declare war on you. That is, if not a complete declaration of war, that's such an aggressive attitude towards Israel that I cannot see it as anything different than an act of war. So Israel, honestly, I would be happy enough if Israel would admit they are at war with Hezbollah, but ultimately Israel is at war with Lebanon.
Yeah.
James?
Yeah, it's more than a moral sanction. It's even more than minor material support. They foster, harbor, encourage, have them in the government. Now, you can say, well, Hezbollah has a gun to any government in Beirut's head. Well, if you know, that only confirms the point that Hezbollah is really an effective part of the Lebanese political system. And that's all, the only way you can look at it. And you go, well, there's a large Christian population. Once upon a time, they were more moderate. That may all be true. But I think that when it gets to the point now, when you have the relationship between Hezbollah and the current Lebanese government, it's there's not even any light or air space between, which you might say about Turkey or Qatar. I wouldn't say about Iran. Well, we harbor them, but we're not active in the war. Well, that's, as you point out, that in itself is an act of war. You're harboring the bad guys. Lebanon goes much further than merely harboring bad guys. They incorporate them in their political thinking. They incorporate them in their political world. They give them complete control of Lebanon south of that river, in effect. No, Lebanon equals Hezbollah. Hezbollah equals Lebanon at this point. There's no other way of looking at it.
Yeah, and someone in the chat is asking, Israel did something, did they not? They preempted. Confused by this title. So we did cover this, but I think it's important to realize, yeah, Israel is at war with these people. This is, I don't know, when people say Israel has preempted this attack, I don't know technically you could say it has preempted this like specific one attack, but what value are you getting from that? What is the point of like saying that
You had,
Israel?
you had a great example. Was D-Day a preemptive attack on
Yeah,
Nazi Europe? I mean, you're a part of an ongoing war. Yeah, it's a new attack. It's a new attack that you didn't specifically maybe have an immediate provocation for, but it's simply an ongoing part of the ongoing war. I mean, Iran launched, what was it, 170 missiles and 150 drones, something like that. Hundreds of missiles and drones back in April, directly from Iran, directly on Israel. Now, it's true that the defensive systems from Israel and other countries stopped nearly all of it coming through, and only one Bedouin girl was a casualty, but that one Bedouin girl too many. That's okay. So Israel then kills the Hamas leader in Tehran. Iran vows they're going to get back for the killing of this Hamas leader in Tehran. So we're all waiting for how Iran will do that. And as everyone who's been listening to these podcasts knows, my main fear was that they would attack because of the failure of getting much through in April. They would attack through a much more likely to be successful direction. That is, using Iran's proxies, Hezbollah. Hezbollah equals Iran, too, by the way. They work hand in glove with one another. And so I most feared that the Iranian retaliation would come through the north, where they have more missiles even closer to Israel and might have a better shot at really getting attacks. And here you even tell me that Hezbollah is planning more attacks, and they had been in plan for more attacks. And the way they phrase this is, this Israeli attack isn't going to stop us in our attack. Now, what in any of that makes this sound like a preemptive attack? No, Israel is fighting a war, an ongoing war with Hezbollah and, frankly, Iran. And to call any of this a preemptive attack is to really, it's a mental fiction that we can stop this at any moment and then it won't be war. And that we'll stop a war simply by subjective fiat in our heads. It won't. It won't prevent more October 7th. It won't attack Iran. It won't stop further attacks from Iran through its proxies on Israeli and American interests. It won't stop any of this. A ceasefire won't stop the war. No, only winning can possibly stop this war. And by winning, I mean the utter destruction of Hezbollah and Hamas and directly dealing with Iran. Until we directly deal with Iran, we are in fact at war. Israel and the United States at war. And whatever fiction they want to say about escalation, we don't want a wider war, it won't stop the violence. If what we mean by war is aggressive violence, no, what we're asking for is a temporary pause. And that will somehow be given all the laurels of peace around its head. You give them a Nobel Peace Prize for causing a ceasefire here in actions that have no chance of actually ending the violence. It's a way of just perpetuating the violence in an endless war.
Yeah, this whole coverage, and especially when it comes to Iran, the fact that Israel has, well, supposedly Israel has assassinated um, Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas in Iran, and people are still using that in conversation. Like Iran has this sort of like attack Israel free card that basically it's still part of the conversation. The fact that Iran is not attacking Israel is viewed as sort of like they are trying to, push people towards ceasefire, or they're trying to help. And if Israel attacks Iran in any way, it will be, of course, also viewed as a preemptive attack, because Iran has this sort of again sort of like free attack they can just do. The whole like today's topic is probably the weirdest topic I think we have covered since October 7th. The fact that the way people look at it, and something I also want to bring up, a few medias have been talking about the World War III. Like this is bringing us closer to World War III. And I have a few things to say about it. I mean, the fact that people use World War III, and they use it with Ukraine too, especially. The fact that, a potential for an escalation, the potential for conflict getting bigger is taken as we don't want that, so we should appease dictators. We
Right.
we don't want to respond to evil by attacking them, so we should just let Hezbollah live. We should just let Iran live. We should just let Russia take over Ukraine because we don't want escalation. It's crazy, and it doesn't work. We've already seen this. Something I'm surprised no one has brought up when in the past, it might have been 2022, it might have been 2023. Putin has said that if territorial integrity of Russia is being threatened, they will use any means necessary. And he was clearly guiding toward nuclear weapons. Ukraine has invaded Kursk, nothing happens because
That is the great counterexample to all this escalation bull, isn't it? No. If we tried to take out the Ayatollah right now, if we tried to take out the Islamic Republic of Iran right now, would Russia lift a finger? They might complain. There'd be very little they could do. They're not going to go to nuclear war over Iran. On the other hand, allowing Iran to stay in power to get a nuclear bomb would be the destabilizing thing. No. How they define escalation? Escalation is in our interest right now. An attack directly on Iran will not cause World War III, ladies and gentlemen. Iran's most powerful ally, Iran and Russia exchange all kinds of things. They trade in drones and whatnot. Yeah, Iran's most powerful ally, Russia, will not be in a position right now to do anything much about an attack directly on Iran. This is the moment to liberate those many, many Iranians who have tried many times to rebel and overthrow their government, only to get the cold shoulder from America time and time again when the Iranian people are trying to overthrow their own government, mind you. That'd be escalation. No one wants World War III. No one wants escalation. We've got to stop thinking like that. That will make the bad guys win every single time. No, a direct attack on Iran right now will not cause World War III. Russia is on its heels. China is smarter than that. And Iran is the biggest threat in the area. But they themselves have domestic issues. So what the logic here is utterly beyond me. Whether in the sense of they are the source of the problem here, but also World War III is going to happen because you do that? No, World War III is much more likely if you allow Iran to become a nuclear power. And then you're really going to have a problem, and you're really going to have some slaughter. Okay? Now is the time to do it. And it wouldn't be preemptive. How many acts of war has Iran done against the United States in the last 40 plus years? How many acts of war has Iran done against Israel? For example, throwing hundreds of missiles and drones at them just in April, a direct attack. If Israel responded to Iran with a direct attack, if America responded to Iran with a direct attack, that wouldn't be a preemptive attack. That would hopefully be the decisive end to an ongoing, decades-long war that Iran has been waging with Israel and America.
Yeah, and when people talk about it, it's always either Ukraine or Israel that is the escalating force. It's never the people who have started this war. It's always when the good countries or the attacked countries want to defend itself. That's always viewed as the escalation. If Ukraine wants to strike inside Russia itself, oh, that's escalation. If Ukraine invades inside of Russia, oh, that's escalation. If Israel wants to do something about Hezbollah, that's escalation. No, that's what needs to be done. Because and also someone in the chat is asking, Lebanon has the right to defend itself. So no country has a right to defend itself. Countries have an obligation towards their people. They have an obligation to recognize their rights and do what is necessary to protect them. Lebanon, by allowing Hezbollah to be inside their government, by letting Hezbollah just roam around free, is is denying the rights of their people, is denying, or in a sense, it's abdicating on its obligation. When
They're
Israel,
making valid targets. The Lebanese government is currently making their own people valid targets of Israel in a war. Full stop. Lebanon are aggressors by harboring Hezbollah. Simply by harboring Hezbollah, they are the aggressor. They have no right to self-defense. They permit an ugly, racist, savage group like Hezbollah, funded by international aggressors, Iran, in their aggression against Israel. No, 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 no. Lebanon has no valid right, moral right to self-defense. Israel has a right to take out the government of Lebanon right now because they harbor an evil aggressor who has been attacking them for many years. You got it all backwards there, questioner. Lebanon is the aggressor.
And when if people want to say, Lebanon, I think someone is asking, is Hezbollah holding Lebanon hostage? If there are good forces in Lebanon, if there are people who, and I think there are, I think at least when I look at when I checked the last election, there was the sort of like anti-Hezbollah coalition. So we know there are some people, but if they and in the same way, when there were good people in France during World War II or in Germany fighting against the regime, if they need to stand up, but they cannot be seen as sort of we cannot sacrifice Israel because there are few good people in Lebanon. If there are any, they need to stand up. If the government itself wants to fight against Hezbollah, it can stand up. It can fight with Israel. There were times in the past where it sort of did that, but it needs to be done to the end. It needs to be completed. But to the extent you don't stand up to Hezbollah, to the extent you accept them being in your government, to the extent you allow them to control large parts of your land and use that land to attack, to either, well, in the past they also harbored Hamas leaders or Hamas high-ranking members. But if they do that and you don't do anything about it, you are participating in that war. If you are harboring someone, it's, I don't want to, the international diplomacy, yeah.
Go back to your DDay example. Did Britain and the United States attack France during DDay, during World War II? Well, yeah, technically they did. And in bringing down Vichy France, were we after the French people? No, we knew that there was a whole lot of French people who didn't want to be dominated by the Nazis. We knew there was a giant French resistance that we were supporting. No. Would you say that Britain and America were after the French people in D-Day? No. They were after the Vichy government that was being supported by Nazi Germany. An attack by Israel on Lebanon, it would be similar. It's not necessarily the Lebanese people or all of them. It's the people who are in control. It's the vicious power that's being harbored within Lebanon that makes Lebanon a valid target. Just like France, and I put that in quotes again, was a valid target in D-Day in World War II. They were dominated by the Nazis. The Nazi army controlled northern France. It was an attack on the Nazis, not on the French people. Similarly, an attack on Lebanon would not be an attack on all the Lebanese people, where there may be all kinds of better elements among the Lebanese people. It would be attack on the government that harbors Hezbollah.
Yeah, but I think an important example you brought up, many French people did stand up. I think especially in the Africa, there was the Free France. But yeah, the actual government of France, basically after Germany occupied France, the government of France, in a sense, continued when it continued in the version of Vichy France. That was, it's hard to say how, in a sense, continuation government works. But when it comes to, when it comes to these conflicts, that was France. But people stood up, and if free Lebanon, if people stand up, I think, yeah, Israel should help them. In the same way, if people in Iran decide to stand up against the regime, we should support them in any way we can. But again, you have to remember, just because we think there are some people, we cannot abdicate, or in a sense, Israel cannot abdicate its responsibility towards its own citizens.
That's exactly it. Hezbollah is still there. They're still the major military force there. They're still operating against Israel. It was like I say, in France, the German army was all over northern France. And yeah, okay, the Allies attacked France. Correct. Vichy France. Well, guess what? There were a whole bunch of, the Nazi army was all over northern France. Similarly, Hezbollah is all over southern Lebanon. So an attack on Lebanon and on the government that is supporting and allowing Hezbollah to operate there would be perfectly analogous to an attack on Vichy France. Okay, it's an attack on France. Okay, it's an attack on Lebanon. But really, it's what you're doing is you guys are agents of evil, this wider evil. And it's part of an ongoing war. It's not a preemptive strike. How many strikes? I mean, for how many months have tens of thousands of Israelis been completely displaced from their homes in northern Israel? Months and months now. Not to mention, panning back even further to the years of conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. It's insane to call these kind of things preemptive attacks or escalations. No, as I say, until we turn the moral tables, and they're the ones who are fearing escalation, not us. When escalation isn't the scare word, clutch my pearls word for us, but for them, then we've corrected the situation. We should be on the march. We should be what I guess under international law terms would be the aggressor. Well, but they're all messed up. We would by no means be the aggressor. It would be an act of pure self-defense if we launched an all-out attack against the Iranian government right now. Or if Israel, with America's help, did an all-out attack in Lebanon to cleanse that country of Hezbollah. That would be an act of self-defense in both cases.
So let me quickly thank the super chatters because I'm not sure if I did. Thank you, Bonnie, for your super chat. Thank you, Jeff, for your super chat. And thank you, Jonathan, for your super chat. James, did you know that history didn't start on October 7th?
Yeah, I had a dim suggestion, a hint that history had not quite, that God did not create the earth on October 7th. I don't even believe it.
Well, tomorrow we'll be talking about this phrase often used by pro-Hamas people, basically saying that, in a sense, that Israel did deserve October 7th. But we'll talk about it on tomorrow's TDO. And in just about a minute, we have the reality show Extra. That's for YouTube members and ARCUK website members. And we'll be talking about, should Telegram be banned? The person behind Telegram has been arrested in France, and we'll be discussing, the Telegram, the person, and if anything should be done about Telegram. So thank you, James, for joining me today. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Be safe.